Hey folks, that was an improvised solo on the changes to our Spanish love song, a tune written by Charlie Hayden. I'm going to talk about this tune a little bit at the end of this video, but next up we're going to talk about the idea of being self-taught. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about a question or questions that have come up on the live stream, and you can add your comments down below if you have a question you'd like me to feature or attend one of our Sunday live streams. Okay, so the idea of being self-taught has come up on quite a few videos that I've watched, which I've enjoyed, and some pretty big names in music have, said that they are self-taught when, maybe they are to a degree or maybe they aren't. So I do have some sympathy for their statement, so I'm gonna give my take on this. So learning an instrument, we really spend a lot of time on our own working out things on the instrument. Technique, where the notes are, patterns, the list goes on. And if you're really curious about music and how it works, one's learning might be self-directed by a large degree. If we just take the physics of music and sound waves, we have the overtone series. When you put two notes together, they tend to form ratios. And then we have our perception of sound and, of course, music, which is integrated in culture and taste and really kind of group discovery as various cultures around the world have developed melody, rhythm, and harmony. So if you enjoy the sound of a plucked string and that makes you curious and you want to know how music works, that curiosity is going to direct you. There's almost like a gravity to music or a push and pull that's very intriguing. But I'd say it's going to be really tough to be 100% self-taught. You're going to have a listening history. You're going to possibly work with other musicians and learn from recordings, maybe transcribing changes and things like that. Now, teachers can offer you guidance and feedback. So for example, I took lessons from Walter Namath. He was a member of the Buddy Rich Band. At the time, he was retired from recording and touring. But I want to give you an example of how you can experience some guidance that can be very helpful. So one week I came in to Walter and I said, check this out. And then I talked a little bit about, okay, how you could actually take a note and use different harmonics by cutting it off, not just the octave. And then kind of in theory, I guess you could create this whole thing of maybe playing melodically with all these harmonics. And he said, that's really pretty cool, but be careful how you're spending your time because you could explore a lot of really interesting things that might not actually be that practical. So in a sense, he's given me a little bit of some guardrails there. He's kind of trying to channel me, keep me, but not restrict too much. And that's oftentimes what a teacher can do is say, yeah, that's a neat thing, but let's redirect this way and not wander off in the woods or something like that, but maintain your interest level. I'll share another little story about Walter Namath and my time with him. So one week he asked me to work on this tune. We had a lead sheet and we read it down. We played it together, get to the end of the melody. I was playing melody, he was playing the chords, and he gets really upset with me. He goes on and on about how I'm not playing it note for note the way it's written. It kind of goes on to this whole rant about it. It doesn't give me any opportunity to play it again and do what he's asking. So I wait until the next week and I come back and I play it note for note, all the rhythms exact. Same situation. Stops at the end, gets really upset, and says, "That's not how you play. You don't play it exactly like it's written." So I'm not sure if he had a master plan in his teaching style or if he just didn't remember the previous week at all or what. But he kind of taught me a lesson that I'd better be able to play it exactly like written and also be able to interpret the melody, embellish it, and change it up. So far we've talked about the need to have a little bit of curiosity, wanting to figure some things out on our own. Talked a little bit about private lessons and getting some direction and some guidance. Now let's talk about experience. It's very important to have some live experiences of playing and also to play with some musicians who have more experience and who are at a higher level. A lot of what you learn from them might be unspoken, but you might be able to get a little of advice as well on a set break or afterward. But there are some things, if let's say you're working with recordings a lot, that may not be present when playing out somewhere. There are some ways of beginning and ending tunes, maybe vamping on sections, that you may miss from strictly working with recordings or iReal Pro or something like that. It can be difficult at this time to get experience, especially if you're playing jazz out in a live situation. So you might seek out an established bass player, book a gig at a coffee shop, even if they don't pay and you have to pay the bass player, maybe you take a loss, you're going to gain so much from experience. Seek out jam sessions, like I mentioned in the last video, or you can even hire somebody to play with you. Maybe they have private students already, and you just call them up and say, "Hey, I'm not looking for lessons, but can I book one of your weekly lesson spots and we just play and you give me some tips?" So those are the 3 things I'd like to offer you today. Just the curiosity to try things, guidance from a private instructor, and see if you can get some experience playing from an established musician. Okay, so we had a question about audiation on our last live stream. Thought I'd briefly talk about that. Kind of a funny story. I was playing a gig about a year ago, 7-piece group, and I was talking to the trumpet player between sets, and somehow we were talking about sound systems and listening through speakers or equipment, amps or whatever. And he said something like, some players don't even need a sound system at all because they're hearing so clear internally. They just sit back and internally listen to the music in their own recollection and in their own imagination. So most of us are not going to be able to hear internally as clearly as like Mozart, but we can still imagine music internally and develop the ability to make it more clear. And we can imagine the fingerboard and the spatial awareness of that internally as well. So I'd highly recommend trying to spend some time off the instrument, just considering where the notes are, what it sounds like, and imagine that you're physically playing without actually doing, and see where that leads. Okay, so a little bit about what we need to know on this tune, our Spanish love song. We need to be able to work with minor in particular. Roughly the first half of the tune is pretty much in minor. So we have F minor. We want to be able to play a 5 in minor, like C7. Oftentimes we use flat 9s on those types of chords in minor. And so you can use diminished 7 arpeggios built on the flat 9. We have the 4 chord minor, so we're in F minor, the 4 chord. We want to be able to create a little extra tension to that, going to that, and so we have what's called a secondary dominant, a 5 of the 4. So you can really get quite a lot going on this tune, even with those skills. Second half of the tune, we go briefly to the relative major, the 2-5 to the flat 3 chord, and then it tends to cycle us back, moving a little bit towards the tonic, but then redirecting us over to the minor 4. And then the second time we do that, basically the same thing, and then we end up on minor, or tonic minor. I'll be discussing this tune in more depth on my podcast, the Guitar and Improvisation podcast. Should be coming out later this week. All right, folks. Well, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy this. This is a pretty new series. Please leave some comments and questions down below. I'd love to pick out a few things to feature in the next one. And be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to dig deeper, check out our description box for more learning resources. Thanks again. I'll see you all in the next one.